All right, welcome everyone to this Q&A. Again, want to welcome everyone. Want to welcome everyone to this Q&A. Hope everyone's doing good. It's good to be back. Definitely good to be back. So I got something where whatever interesting I don't know, interesting topic as they normally are, but I got I don't know, maybe more of, let's say, I don't know if I'm going to say it's timely, but I don't know, everything comes at the right time. Everything comes when it's supposed to, I guess. Which means I just heard I'm not going to say a relative, it wasn't necessarily a relative. It was I guess, of a cousin through marriage, whose mother just passed away. And mother was, how old was she? 95. I guess was failing at the end, whatever. I don't know exactly what she had, whatever happened, but someone just told me that this woman, a woman passed away. And whatever, she was 95. So you say, well, it's a good age, right? What does King David say? Right? King David says that how many years should a person be in this world? A person should be in this world. A person should be in this world for 70 years. Now, if they're given strength, how many years would they have in this world? 80. So basically, we would say anything over that, is a bonus. Now living a long life in general, you can say a person has merit, right? A person can have merit to warrant living a long life. What about a secular Jew? Well, forget about non-Jews at the moment. What about a secular Jew? They don't keep kosher. They don't keep mitzvahs, right? They don't keep Shabbos, right? Technically, they don't keep Shabbos, desecrate Shabbos in public. What's their status of a non-Jew? I mean, they can repent. And even if they don't know anything, they grew up as a potato farmer in Idaho, right? No offense, anyone's a potato farmer grew up in Idaho, grew up not knowing anything, maybe a little more traditional, less traditional, quote unquote, very, very Jewish, right? Let's say, very, very Jewish. How do they look in God's eyes? There are plenty of people out there, I've heard this before. Person was very sweet, very nice, always helped others, very good. I have a lot of good memories, a lot of good, quote unquote, good people. Right? But are they good in God's eyes? Someone's going to say, how can you judge? You don't know what's in a person's heart. Doesn't matter what's in a person's heart. God's going to judge what a person does. Judaism, remember, is not about philosophy. There is a lot of philosophy within Judaism. Judaism's about action, whether it's a Jew or as a non-Jew, right? We're going to speak about Jews for a second. A lot of mitzvahs to do. Even if you can't do more than half of them out of the 613. So how many can we do? Maybe half, right? So if you can do half, very good. Right? So still a lot of mitzvahs to do. A lot of mitzvahs to do. Now, if you're not doing what you're supposed to do, what can God do? God can say, okay, maybe you did something, good in your life according to Torah. Gave charity, helped granny cross the street, did other things. So what does God do? God allows you to live to a ripe old age. He gives you the merit of that mitzvah in this world. Because that's only fair. God has to reward those, right? He has to reward those who do mitzvahs in this world. Even if he's going to wipe them out in the next world, right? Even if he's going to wipe them out in the next world. So that's why evil people in God's eyes seem to have it easy. Right? Because they did something in this world that God has to pay him back. God for sure has to pay him back. Because that wouldn't be fair. How could how could someone do a mitzvah and God doesn't give them the merit? God doesn't give them the reward. Very good. But God's going to have to give reward. Okay. But if they get the reward in this world, and they seem to have it easy in this world, what's going to be? It means in the next world they're in trouble if they get there. There's some people that will never get there. They'll die like a dog. No offense. Any dog lovers out there, poof, dog dies. Nothing happens. No marble. No next world for this dog. Even if the dog was reincarnated, right? A person's soul was reincarnated into the dog. Dog dies, the soul goes up, gets judged. Right? Without going into all that. So let's say a person lives to a ripe old age. 95, someone told me earlier, it's good age. Good age to go. You lived a long life. Okay. Because the older you get, the harder it is. Right? Everybody knows that. I'm not saying anything new. Right? Everybody knows that. Everybody knows that. The older you get, the harder it is. Had someone tell me they're fighting, I don't know, cold, flu, something. They're much older in their 80s. And, they get upset. And they said, listen, people keep telling me the older you are, the harder it is to fight. It's like, I can't stand hearing that, but it's true. Body's weaker. Body needs time. Takes longer, depending what it is. So the question really is, we already dealt with the idea that someone can be very nice, be the nicest person in the world and still stink to high heaven. Right? Not about being nice in this world. It's about doing what God wants. So by doing what God wants, that means it's good. So the beginning of Leviticus, when the Torah talks about sacrifices, right? One of the things the Torah says a number of times, it's a reach nichoach l'Hashem. It's a nice smelling fragrance to God. What do you mean? God's got a big schnoz? God's got a big nose? What a beautiful thing. What a beautiful thing. The incense, the fats, the blood. Oh, beautiful. God have a nose? Right? What does that mean? Rashi on the spot says what it means. Rashi says, you know what it means? Rech nichoach. You know what it means? Nice smelling fragrance to gods. What it means is that they're doing what God wants. They're doing God's will. Once somebody does God's will, that's a pleasing odor to God. So in this sense, forget about sacrifices and what they represent and all that. The fact the Jewish people did what they were commanded to do, that was a nice smelling fragrance to God. Not the fact he's got a big nose and, he can smell whatever. No, being anthropomorphized. Even though the Torah does, to give us understanding, at least to give us some, imagination what things are in God's world. Can't imagine who God is. God's got an outstretched arm. You think he's got an arm? Doesn't have an arm. Outstretched arm means power, strength. I mean, not physical strength, but power. So a nice, pleasant smell, so to speak, to God means, Rashi says, they're doing God's will. That's what it means. They're doing God's will. So if you're doing God's will, that's pleasing to God. If you're not doing God's will, that's disgusting to him. Right? We'll make it a little more graphic. It's like a cesspool. That's what it smells like in his eyes. But someone's got to say, the person's the nicest person in the world. Now, this person did other things very good. But you can't get around certain things. You can't get around the fact that there's a great shoppers in public. I don't care why. You can't get around that fact. You can't get around the fact they don't keep kosher. You can't get around the fact they speak Lashon Hara. Probably a lot of Lashon Hara. Yeah, more than 30 prohibitions in one shot. That's pretty bad, isn't it? It's pretty bad. Oh, but they're the nicest of people. It's not a question of being nice. How do they look in God's eyes? So back to the original thing here. Somebody lives to a ripe old age. Another relative, 99, turning 99. Pretty amazing. Pretty amazing. Yeah. So what's the issue here? What's my beef over here? The question is this a good thing for that person? You're going to say, well, God kept them alive for a long time. Very good. If you tell me a person's a Torah scholar, keeps them around to guard the generation, I could hear that. Even though they can't really function so much, kept them alive. To guard the generation. So a lot of Torah giants lived, very old. A lot of them till their 90s or more. All right, some die younger, whatever, but they're there to guard the generation. So long life helps them, helps the generation. Does long life help a secular person? That's the question on the floor. Does it help a secular person? Now, what would the Torah's approach be? If God's keeping them alive longer, and they're still going to continue to do what they're doing, even when they're old, and they can still function, and they're still desecrating Shabbos, they're still eating trade, they're still speaking Lashon Hara. Is this a benefit for them? No, it's not a benefit for them. It's killing them 10 times over. So why would God do that? Still, everyone's got the opportunity to repent. Everybody can repent. But he has to give them, right? There's something not so easy to wrap our heads around a little bit. He has to give them the rewards for what they've done in this world. Because the reward later ain't coming. They're using up their reward in this world. Which means like this. Person's going to be the nicest person in the world. So God's going to keep them around for a long time because they did certain mitzvahs, whatever they were, that God gives them the merit, the reward in this world. The entire merit, not a quarter, not a half. Gives them all the merit, and what's going to be in the next world? Nothing. They're going to get destroyed. They still have an opportunity to repent. Right? I was thinking about something earlier. As I was actually going through Pirkei Avos. Pirkei Avos is going to be back Saturday night after Shabbos my time. Right? If I had a chance to organize certain things. So the Mishnah says, we'll give you a little prelude. Chapter 2, Mishnah 15. Right? One of the things it says over there in the name of Rebbe Elzer is that you should repent the day before you die. What's the obvious question? Nobody knows when they're going to die. They got to repent now. Every day you got to repent. You don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. What King Solomon says, you don't know what today's going to bring, you don't know what tomorrow's going to bring. Right? So what's the prelude over here? Isn't it better to repent when you're younger? When you're older, there's certain things you can't do. Your body can't do it, even if you wanted to. Your body can't do it. So you're refraining from doing it, very good. Even if you're refraining from doing it, what's the problem? The problem is, the only reason you're refraining from doing it is because you can't. You're physically incapable. Whatever it is. You can't do it. So if you can't do it, do you get credit at least for not doing it? Yes. You get credit for not doing it. But is that the same when you have all your faculties? Right? Is that the same? Is that the same when you have everything, you have vitality? You have life? You know what's going on? So to speak, and you refrain from these transgressions. That's a higher level. It's a much higher level. Now, $1 million question would be, if that is true, then it means you're going to get a lot more credits if a person repents when they're able to, when they're younger, than when they're older and they can't, but it's just they're not able to do certain things because they just can't do it. Now, so the $1 million question is, well, isn't that, some level of repentance? Maybe. If they're acknowledging that's what they're doing. But if they don't acknowledge what they're doing, right? We mentioned there's the Mabit. The Mabit in his epic work, Beis Elokim, the house of God, never been translated, but he's got a whole, it's whatever, basically a book in Jewish philosophy. It's really Musar. That one of the things he speaks about there is about prayer. Right? He speaks about prayer, or he speaks about repentance. Right? That's really what I meant. Repentance. The Mabit over there says, we mentioned this before, just refresh everybody's memory. He says, if a person's sick and they're suffering, and let's say they're dying, and they know they're suffering, the Mabit there says, pretty scary idea in some ways. The Mabit says, if you have intention and you say, all these Yisurim, all the suffering I'm getting is why? It's because I did things wrong. Right? You're acknowledging the suffering is coming because of sin. That means there's an atonement. That means you're going to gain atonement from the suffering. If a person would say, woe to me, my bad luck, this is terrible, whatever, but they don't acknowledge where it comes from and why, A-I-E. They don't acknowledge it comes from God. They don't acknowledge it's because of sin. Guess what? That punishment that they get doesn't wipe away sin. Normally we say, when a person suffers in this world, right? Person suffers in this world, what happens? Takes away sin. So we'd love to suffer. Say, God, give me more suffering. No, nobody wants to suffer. Because we say every day in the morning, don't bring me to trials and tribulations. But you don't grow without them, right? So I'll tell a story I always say over by Rosh Hashanah. There's a guy comes to synagogue, Rosh Hashanah at night. Right? He comes to synagogue, Rosh Hashanah at night, and he sees someone takes a seat. And he's rip-roaring mad. I'll get this person to take my seat and whatever. Right? Ruins his whole night. This is Rosh Hashanah, Day of Judgment. Comes home, still rip-roaring mad. Has his meal. Goes to sleep. When he goes to sleep, he has a dream. In the dream, he sees a scale. He sees a scale. He hears a baskel. He hears a heavenly voice. Heavenly voice says, bring out all his mitzvahs. He understands he's being judged. So all these white angels come out, some stronger, some weaker, depending on how he did the mitzvah. Trainloads of these white angels. And they go on one side of the scale. Scale goes way down. This guy's feeling pretty confident. No more white angels come out. Right? The train stop. And then he hears another bicycle. He hears another heavenly voice. The heavenly voice says, bring out all his transgressions. These black angels, some stronger, some weaker, right? They jump on the other side of the scale. Meanwhile, that side of the scale is going down. The white angel starts to come up. He's getting a little bit nervous. What's the judgment going to be, good or bad? These black angels you never want to see in a dark alley anywhere, right? Destructive angels, ready to rip this guy to shreds. Meanwhile, the scale's going like this, but the scale is still on the advantage of what? Of a bad. He's going to have a bad judgment here. So the guy screams out in his dream. He says, are there any more white angels? Nope. He's in trouble now. He realizes black angel's going to rip him to shreds. He's like, I'll do anything. Right as he's about to get destroyed. He's like, I'll do anything. I'll even take on suffering. So that before they have a chance to cover him up, whatever that means. Suffering? All of a sudden, a huge trainload of angels come. White angels go on the side of the other scale. Right? Go on the side of the good side, so to speak. And he gets a good judgment, and that's his dream. He wakes up the next day, goes to synagogue. He's not even worried about someone who took his seat. Not even worried. Because he knows that suffering is good. Right? People say, well, when a person has difficulty, it builds character. Very good. It can also destroy people. True. Well, let's think about this further. Let's analyze this dream. Right, for one split second. What's going on here? Person's going to have good deeds they did, bad deeds they did. Now, the good deeds may be very strong, maybe weaker, depends what they did, depends how they did the mitzvah. Same thing with transgressions. But what's the whole point? You acknowledge where suffering comes from. That's why I told the story. Because once you acknowledge where the suffering comes from, then that is atonement. Famous story my Rabbi tells, with Mordechai Pogromansky, blessed memory. The Telzer Elu, Telzer genius, survived World War II miraculously in many ways. My Rabbi had a connection to him after the war. Went to see him, and he was dying of cancer, and they wanted to give morphine, and he's basically blind, racked with pain. He was young, in his early 40s, right? And he sat up, basically looked up to heaven and said, God, I know I'm being punished for the sins that I've done. But you give me all the suffering in the world. You let me have all the suffering because I'm coming to you straight to Gan Eden, Tahor V'Naki. I'm coming to you, to paradise, to the Garden of Eden, pure. Right? Extremely pure. Because he understood what's the purpose of suffering here. The purpose of suffering is for what? Is for sin. That's what it's for. It wipes out many sins. How much? Can't say. Never been in that world, never met anyone that's come back. But from what I do understand, a person suffers, take away tremendous amount of sin. I'm not going to say it wipes everything out, but says the Mabit over there, you have to acknowledge. You have to say where it comes from. It's not about, it's not about, the person's so nice and they did this. Again, when we look at what we're doing in this world, he goes, you can't judge. You're right. I'm not judging. The Torah is going to be the ultimate judge. God's the ultimate judge. And the Torah says, as we mentioned many times, second paragraph of the Shema, you do what you're supposed to do. Very good. God will give you rain. God will take care of your needs. If not, going to be payback. Whether in this world, in the next world, or both. So, the age-old question, why do righteous people suffer? Evil people have it easy. The evil people could have it easy because they did some mitzvah in the world, whatever it may be, and God has to compensate them. Because otherwise it wouldn't be fair. Would not be fair. There's reward and punishment. So God has to give them reward. The only problem is, some of these people stink to high heaven, and God, no pun intended, God doesn't want to see them in the next world at all, ever. He doesn't want to see them. So what does he do? He does what's fair. Fine, I will reward them. That's fair. I have to reward them. They did a mitzvah. They helped Granny cross the street. I don't know, whatever mitzvah they did. God has to give them reward, but he's going to give it to them now. So even though they have it easy now, they ain't going to have it easy later. One of the rabbis went up to heaven and he came back and they asked him, what did you see? And he says, I saw an upside down world. I saw a world where the people who aren't doing so well in this world are really at the top of the next world. It's people that you think are, they're doing so great and whatever, they're doing so well. It's an upside down world. Now, those are the people that, either, made it there or they're being severely punished. What's the worst punishment that can happen? Guys, person gets spiritually cut off. Spiritually cut off means you don't make it to the next one. Right? We'll use a sports parable here. You're not in the bleachers. Right? You're not in the bleachers of a baseball game. You can't see very much. You're not even in the bleachers. Or in the old Boston Garden, they had people that paid for obstructed view seats. But they were there. They were at the game. right? The first thing you say, what's the benefit? Well, if you're into sports and your team's winning a lot, then there's a benefit, even if you can't see very much. The brother would say, isn't it better to watch it on TV? It depends. If you're there at the game, you're there at the game. But if you don't make it to the game, not that you're behind a wall, not that you're dust under the feet of the righteous, that's already level. You already got something. How much can you see as being dust? I don't know, probably not too much, but you got there. Somehow you got there. You squeezed your way in. But there are others that are not going to get there. They won't get there at all. They won't be dust under the feet of the righteous. They won't be dust at all. Poof! That's what's going to happen. Zero. They get nothing. That's what spiritually cut off means. It means they don't have a portion of the world to go. They lose their portion of the world to go. So even if there are people around us that we see that even they believe in JC or who knows what, and they're living ripe old ages, and they got a lot of money and maybe prestige and power and fame and all kinds of things, maybe. You got to say, like, where's the righteousness? Why should that be? Now, this is one reason. This is one possible reason. Maybe they did something right in their life. Maybe. And God's paying them back now. So wouldn't we rather not be paid back? Maybe suffer a little bit more? Or in the next world, but at least have something real? Because this world is fantasy. It's all fantasy. We mentioned many times. Hard to imagine, right? We'll make it even more graphic, a little more depressing, right? It's going to be a good day for everybody. Yeah, a little more depressing. Take a look at Esau, right? Yaakov's cooking up lentils because Abraham died. Esau comes running in. It's like, I'm dying. Give me some of that red stuff. Yeah, Rashi says, did all kinds of transgressions the same day. Wasn't such a nice guy. Yaakov says, sell me birthright. He's like, what do I care about my birthright? I'm going to die, right? I'm going to die. Just give me some of that red stuff. He says, sell me a birthright. And he sells it and he shovels in the food, right? That's how it's brought down. He shovels it in like an animal, like an absolute animal. Obvious question. Forget all the terrible things Esau did. How could he sell his birthright? Didn't he grow up in the house of Isaac? Didn't he see his grandfather, Abraham? Didn't he see angels in his house? He grew up seeing all this. He saw the righteous of the righteous, even though it was a whole generation of idolaters. He saw the righteous of the righteous. That the Ramchal says, who is Abraham? We know Abraham's father of all nations. Abraham's the pillar. Abraham's the source. Right? Abraham is he's the roots. Everyone else are the branches. Isaac is a branch. Jacob's the branch. Jewish people are branches. They all stem from Abraham, who passed everything down spiritually to Isaac, passed everything down to Jacob, passed down the Jewish people till it was codified at Mount Sinai. We got it from Abraham. So he was the pillar. That's why we say Shemon Esrei, silent meditation, whatever you want to call it. What's the first blessing? First of all, we say our credentials, father of Abraham, God's the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And what's the first blessing? The shield of Abraham. But the Jewish people really come through Jacob, right? They solidified through Jacob, went to Egypt, became a nation after they came out of Egypt, got the Torah. It should say Magain Yaakov. Right? The shield of Yaakov, the shield of Jacob. Why is it the shield of Abraham? Because he's the source. He's the source. Because the Torah says, Avraham Ivri, and everyone mistranslates it, and they say, oh, Abraham the Jew wasn't Jewish. Either he got the Torah before it was given. That's not what it means. Could have been Jewish. The only Jews were codified at Mount Sinai. They're really converts at Mount Sinai, right? But what is Abraham? What is Avraham Ivri? What is the word Aver? Like Aver Yarden, right? The Torah talks about the other side of the Jordan. Aver means over here, ayin beis reish, give some grammar. Ayin beis reish mean, ayin beis reish, let me say it a little bit slower. Yeah, it means the other side. So it means Abraham fought on one side of the world, or not on one side, he fought, let's say better, he was on one side of the world, and everyone else on the other side, right? Because everyone was busy with idolatry. Everyone had their own pocket gods, right? Here's Bob, don't leave home without him. Everyone had their pocket gods. Abraham comes along and says that the world is designed. I know that there's a God. They're like, did he ever speak to you? No. But I know that the world of design, he convinced thousands give up idolatry. Thousands. So he's the pillar. But you think he had it easy? You got to fight the war, 4 kings against the 5 kings. There was a famine, his wife gets taken. He has to almost kill his son, circumcision, a lot of things, a lot of trials. But it made him who he was. Solidified his legacy. So everyone's going to say, I don't want to suffer. You're right, nobody wants to suffer. Whether it's physically, whether it's mentally, whether, everything combined, nobody wants to suffer. Suffering takes away a lot. It's a catch-22. Catch-22, right? So I sort of digressed here. And before I get there. So what happened to Esav? How could Esav sell his birthright? How could he sell the next world? He didn't see angels. He didn't see his father, his grandfather. He didn't see how great they were. What's the answer? What's the obvious answer? The obvious answer is desire killed him. He saw the greatest spiritual beings in the history of man. And at the same time, he wasn't able to control his base desires. Again, it's a little bit hard to understand, right? Because at the age, before Bar Mitzvah, you couldn't tell the difference between Esav and Yaakov. There's a Chidah, one of the great rabbis more than 400 or 500 years ago. The Chidah says, where my Rabbi brings this down a number of times, that Esav was 1,000 times greater than Yaakov. 1,000 times greater. Right? So, we look at it as a little bit of exaggeration, right? 1,000 times is, you can imagine who Yaakov was, right? But up until the time of their bar mitzvah, you couldn't tell the difference. Now, you'll say that Esav was able to fool, Yitzhak by asking him certain questions and, seemingly, wouldn't say have so much relevance, but showing that he's thinking and he's learning and, whatever. Right? The whole question why Yitzhak want to give him the blessing. He knew who Esav was. He wasn't, he's a prophet here. He knows what's going on. He knows what's going on. So Yaakov, he felt didn't need the blessing. He didn't need this world. He's already sitting and learning. It's going to be great. Right? So he wanted to harness an Esav. So it comes along with Shalom Shadron, blessed memory. And Lev Shalom, one of the Torah giants of the last generation, says an unbelievable thing. An unbelievable thing. Says Rav Shalom Shadron, he says, a father at a bar mitzvah, after his son makes the blessing over the Torah, reads from the Torah, the father makes the blessing. What's the blessing? Baruch Sheptarani me'oin shel sells that. I remember growing up, and when the conservative rabbi would translate what this means, everyone would laugh. Everyone would laugh. What does it mean? They say Baruch Sheptarani, blessed or God, source of all blessing, exempts me, Sheptarani, he exempts me from the punishment of this person. So like everybody laughs, like, oh great, you got a free pass now. Whatever your kid does, you're not liable for because he's an adult now. True. But he's like a midget with a hat. I see some of these bar mitzvah boys, they're short, right? Sometimes, to read the Torah, man, I had the same thing. I was also relatively short when I was younger. I mean, I'm still not that tall anyway now, but, people had to stand, kids had to stand on the stool, right? Because they can't see over the bima, over the, where the Torah is put, right? So some kids are that short. Okay, some are taller, whatever. But, at the end of the day, they got their suit on, they got a hat on, they look the look, they walk the walk, they talk the talk, very good. They're 13. Welcome to the covenant. Now everything's for real. They're kids. Essentially, they're kids, but now they got obligations. Now they can lead, the congregation in services. They can exempt people from blessings. They, everything up until now was practice. But when you say that blessing, now according to the Vilna Gaon, very interesting. Rav Elijah Vilna, more than 250 years ago, that blessing you say with God's name. You say Baruch Atah Hashem Sheptarani, right? Sheptarani Me'onshel Shozeh. Right? You say God's king of the world, and he exempted me from this. Now, just about everyone else disagrees and says that you don't mention God's name here. Right? You don't make a blessing out of it. No question why. Right? Simple answer, I would think. I've heard my Rabbi say this many times. That even though you make that blessing, right? Even without God's name, doesn't matter. Right? We mentioned before, if you don't mention God's name, or I mentioned my class on blessings, if you don't mention God's name, most, if not all blessings start Baruch Atah Hashem Elokeinu Melech Olam. God, the source of all blessing. God is king of the world. Pray praise, right? For the fruit of the vine, fruit of the tree, right? You make a blessing over an apple. Or break prayer golfin, right? Blessing for the fruit of the vine. Or on a carrot, break prayer dama, right? Comes from the grounds. Very good. The commentaries say, what if I said Baruch Atah Hashem, but I didn't say he's king of the world? That's not a blessing in vain. That's not a blessing in vain. Why? Because it's not a blessing at all. If I mention one and not the other, I mention he's king of the world, but I don't mention God's name. Or I mention God's name, he's not king of the world, it's not a blessing, it's nothing. Now, we don't go say around God's name for no reason, right? Without getting into all that. We don't, the non-Jew practicing to be a Jew, very good, you can make blessings. You can make all the mistakes you want, right? But at the end of the day, we don't, we don't just go around saying God's name for no reason. Right? So what's the point? Why would the vast majority of rabbinic authorities say you don't make a blessing? You don't make a blessing. This kid is 13. Very good. He's 13 in a day. Doesn't matter how tall he is. He can be taller, he can be shorter, irrelevant. He's now brought into the covenant, so to speak. Now he's got obligations like an adult. He's absolutely got obligations like an adult. Prayer, he's got to pray 3 times a day. Right? Eat bread, he's got to say, grace after meals. Right? He's got all these mitzvahs. Shabbos, Kashrus, lesson hour, he's got all these mitzvahs. Everything up until now is preparation. It's preparatory. Right? There's no question. Preparatory. Does that mean parents' obligation to educate their kids stops at 13? No. Mary would say, and I seen him chastise his kids, they're much older. Much older. You never stop being a parent. You have to know how to parent even when they're married. When they're not at home. Right? That's a whole other thing. But essentially what? You never stop parenting. So to make a blessing and say, well, thank you for exempting me, you're not exempt. You're not exempt. You still have an obligation to educate your kids. Whether they listen, they don't listen, you still have an obligation. It never stops. When they get older, you have to know how to educate them, okay? They'll get situations when they're older, they're married. See how they're raising their kids? Yeah, it's the whole thing. It's the whole thing. But it never stops. That's the point. It never stops. Comes along Rav Shalom Shadron, says an amazing thing. I saw this, I saw it twice, I saw it 3 times, mind-boggling. You always remember things that like stick out in your mind, right? What did he say? What happened over here? What happened to Esav? If Isaac was the one educating him, because Yaakov didn't really need so much guidance. He was good on his own. Yitzhak had to put a lot of strength into educating Esav, very good. So he worked very hard to reel him in, because he knew who he was. He worked very hard to reel him in, to teach him properly, to use his strengths properly. Comes along with Shalom Stradron and says a mind-boggling thing. What did Yitzhak Avinu say when he turned bar mitzvah? Baruch Sheptaran. I'm exempt now. Because he didn't have so much influence in his life, and he stopped educating the way he did before, as if to say it's his fault he went off. Mind-boggling. You gotta say it's his fault? Kid grows up religious, you send him to yeshiva, gets in, wrong crowd, kid goes off. Is the parents' fault? Parents are still liable to a certain extent. They're still liable because most of the education comes from them. But can the street take them away? Yes. Can bad friends take them away? Yes. A lot of things. Right? But where does the onus rely? All over here. Who does it fall upon? The parents. You got to say, but they're not in total control what the kid does outside and who he meets and different things. You're right. A lot of things we can't control. Someone told me many years ago, said your kid goes off to yeshiva, the most important thing you pray for, he's got a good person to learn with. Influence is huge. Peer pressure is huge. No question. Says Shalom Stradron, he shirked his responsibility to a point. Because he wasn't on top of Esav, that's what happened. Esav went off. Now, could have Esav gone off anyway? Could have. But if he had his father's influence that continued as it was, he wouldn't go too far. Because he had that positive influence. Right? That's the point. He left him. He said, I'm exempt, okay? I did what I should have done up until this point. I did a very good job harnessing his strengths, keeping his weaknesses at bay. Okay, he should be able to do it on his own. It was a mistake. According to this, he made a mistake. Can't say I'm just exempt now. It doesn't work that way. You're never exempt from educating your kids. You have to know how. Right? The verse in Proverbs, King Solomon says, Hano lenar al pi darko. Educates. Chanoch means, we translate it as educate. It really means to sanctify, I guess, to establish. Right? We translate normally as to educate. Then you have an obligation to educate Nar, your son, al pi darko. According to, darko means derech shelo, according to his way. The verse does not say al pi darki. It doesn't say educate according to my way. What do some parents make the mistake? That they want to send their kids to the best yeshiva, top yeshiva. Yeah, they push to get them in. Well, the kid's not holding them. Kid's going to drown there. Kid is not going to be successful then. Yeah, parents still want to send them to like the Ivy League. The Ivy League of yeshivas, okay. For his own prestige. Not for the sake of the kid. Because if the kid, let's say, is not holding there, then you're not benefiting him. You're killing him. But the parents want him to go to the best place. If he's not holding there, you destroy him. He's going to get ripped to shreds. You're not going to be able to hack it. It's too hard. Not every place is for, each kid. So you have to know what the strengths of your kid are, where they're really holding in the world, and send them to a place that's appropriate for them. Now, Rabbi asks a very interesting question. Where's it better to send the kid to school? Could be a girl as well, no difference. To a school where they learn less, it's weaker academically, but all the families, are top families, spiritually speaking, and what they do in their house, or sending to a place which is better academically. They'll learn more, but kids come from more, let's say, open houses. What's better? So the answer is you send them to a place where the families are better, but they learn less. Because the influence can kill them. Because if they're more open, but they learn a lot more, that's not going to help them. The influence of other kids on them will kill them. That will kill them. Right? So, as my Rabbi would say as well, not enough you send your kid to school. You say the school has the most influence. Not true. The most influence is family. It's the parents. That's the most influence. But even when you send your kid to school, you got to see what's going on. You got to speak to the teachers, see how they're doing. You have to give them the best chance for success. The best chance for success. And again, it's not an easy thing. When I was in high school, we finished school at 2:00, 2:15. Whatever it was. I have extracurricular things. I got a 12-year-old now talking about bar mitzvah coming up. And, he's done at 5:30, 5:15. It's a long day. They get a lot of breaks, okay? It's a long day. Right? Yeah, when he goes to yeshiva after next year, right? It'll be done much later. Be done at like 9:00, 8:30, 9:00. Something like that. That's hard. Not everyone has the capability to sit all day. It's hard. But you have to train them. You're going to say, well, make it easy. The problem is there's a lot to learn. They have to be prepared. It takes a long time. You got to learn Aramaic, right? Most of the time they're going to be learning Gemara, but it's a painstaking process. They don't really know how to think. They have to be taught. They have to be taught how to analyze. They have to be taught what's going on. They have to be taught the structure. Two great rabbis can say the same thing, but there's a little bit of a difference, and what they say can make the whole difference in the world. This is not easy. Not easy at all, right? People want to say, a number of people say, come on, you said learn all day when I was doing that. It's such an easy thing. It wouldn't last 2 hours. It wouldn't even last an hour. Your brain gets tired. Thinking this way, thinking that way. And whatever Torah makes you tired. That's what it does. Right? It's not an easy thing by any stretch. By any stretch. And some say you got to change the system. This is a system that's worked for generations. Now, not everyone fits exactly the system. But you don't throw out the system. If the system consistent, let's say, the system goes after the yeshiva in Volozhin. You're talking about 300 years ago. The way we learn is from that yeshiva, and it's trickled down all over. Yeah, similar everywhere in the world. Right. So people, some people might say, "Wow, it's too intense." Yeah, they have to learn Jewish law. They have to know how to pray. Right. They have to learn Musar. They have to learn Gemara. They have to learn Halacha. There's a lot to learn. Tremendous amount to learn. And there's pressure. There's also pressure. Again, not everyone does well under pressure. There are a lot of different types of schools that, educators figured out. Not everyone's a cookie cutter. Not everyone exactly fits, in every single school. For the ones that do, very good. The others, okay, you got to work with them. At least if, they don't have a chance necessarily to be great rabbinic scholars, okay, but they have to be, religious people. They have to stay on the same path. They have to, have fixed times to learn. Right? So I've heard people say, make it easier. What? The system works. The system has worked for centuries. Works. Now, Does everyone fit exactly into the system? No. Okay. So you need different types of schools. Very good. That does not mean it doesn't work. Doesn't mean that. You know what they say? If it's not broken, don't fix it. Okay, can we make, can we make some changes here and there? Okay. But to change the entire system, you're not going to change the entire system. The system, for the most part, works. It's intense. It's very hard. So even girls' schools, even though they may get out earlier, they don't learn necessarily the same things. Why do they keep them busy? They keep them busy memorizing all kinds of things and commentators and different things or whatever. Why keep them so busy in tests? People scream about this all the time. Kids are out there having heart attacks, want to do well in school and different things. There's just so much material, blah, blah, blah. What's one of the reasons? They give them so much work. Right? Again, there are people that are pro homework. There are a lot of people against homework, how much time it takes, and they're so busy. They don't, have so much time to be social, whatever. But what's one of the reasons? Someone explained to me. One of the reasons is you keep them busy off the streets. That's one of the reasons. The Song of the Sea, they have to know it by heart with all the commentaries. How person can ask, how's it going to help me later in life? Not a question is going to help you later in life or not. Right? They'll get messages in school that will last a lifetime. And they're learning things they need to know anyway. Right? And Jewish law and other things. So you say so many things they have to, you have to memorize, that, or memorize this. Again, one of the reasons is you keep them very, very busy. Give them different projects, different chesed, acts of loving kindness, do blah, blah, blah. Why? Keep them off the streets. Right? Now, some people, girls may need extracurricular things. Right? Nothing wrong with that. If it's within the realm of Torah. Yeah, so I remember when I was in New Jersey, people rented out a gym once a week for girls. For them to run around and play and this and that. Now, do all girls need that? No. If there are some that need it, it's not a bad thing. Right? For boys, they look at it as worse because, especially here in Israel, because it comes to soccer or football, as they would call it, they don't want kids idolizing a lot of these stars or whatever, because most of the games are on Shabbos. Yeah. But also, there are plenty of people in America, especially America. It could be in Europe also, but we just use America. That's where I came from. And you see, even the best of yeshiva students, can tell you so much about football, baseball, basketball, right? Well, throw in hockey. I was never a hockey fan, but okay, those big three. And they know all kinds of things about LeBron, this and this one, that, and, all these different things. Well, they're like, some people are more religious, less religious, whatever. It's in the modern world, I have no claims. I have nothing to say because they think that's a value. They think being a sports fan is a value. Okay. Well, even if they play it, whatever, it doesn't matter. They think it's a value. I think it's a good value. There's nothing wrong with it. Right? But if you see people that actually, dress in black hats and whatever, but, and this is what they talk about, and these are better guys. Right? So I have a son-in-law who's a dorm counselor in one of these yeshivas. These are, let's say, better guys. So, last year was kind of worse guys, but whatever. Even by the better guys, that are more serious, about learning, they're still all into this stuff. It's trickled down. Not saying, they're getting great values from it, for sure not, but this is what they're into. So you gotta say it's better that than other things, maybe, right? Maybe I agree. Still a total waste of time, okay, but not going to make someone a Torah giant, by any stretch. So when it comes to these things, it's how bad a person wants it, and it's very easy to get sucked into the culture around you. See, if you're secular, there's nothing to talk about, right? A lot of people are into sports. Well, what's going on? Okay, that's what they're into. They're into that, into movies, other things, or whatever. Okay. But it's also seeped into the religious one. You can say, oh, it's taboo, it's forbidden, it's this, so so people want it. People say, oh, what is it? Let's check it out. Not everything a person checks out is good. I know somebody that, their kid had to be, into everything, and know everything, and even things that were taboo. And yeah, they'll say it wasn't good for them. They'll say it affected them in a negative way, but they, what they say, curiosity killed the cat. Totally killed the cat. Yeah, so they regret it, but as a kids, you say something's taboo, everyone wants to check it out. Right? For sure, everyone wants to check it out. Makes sense. Right? If you say, whatever you do, don't look at this, that's where they're going to look. Yeah, somebody here asks, there were some questions here. Do I believe there's a systematic agenda to remove fathers from traditional family units in Western countries? Ooh, interesting question. The Hebrew community seem to recognize this. Or some you can shield their youth from Western media and propaganda. All right. So first question is, they try to remove fathers from traditional family units. I'll tell a story. I'll date myself. It's a TV show I never saw, but I heard about it. It's called Murphy Brown. Right? Anyone remember Murphy Brown? And one of the things that got a lot of flack for back in the day, today it wouldn't be an issue at all, and that is, having a child out of wedlock. Immorality, essentially immorality. Yeah, so there's a lot of flack, that it got, or people who want to support, let's say better, support traditional family structure. So today, the family structure is out the window. Most people that get married get divorced. Most people live together. The divorce rate's like 75%. You know what they say? If you're milking the cow for free, no pun intended, why get married? Right? Now they get a piece of paper, it's not as fun. Right, so to speak. Right? It's a mind-boggling thing. You live together for years. Right? And that, for Noahide, that's considered marriage. So if you live together for years, all of a sudden you get a piece of paper, what changed? Why do 75% people get divorced? If the divorce rate is only, let's say, 50%, 55%, let's say, maybe it's a little bit higher. I haven't checked recently, but let's say, if you live together, exponentially it goes up that you will get divorced. Right? So would I agree that the system of marriage is a disaster today? Yeah, 100%. Are they actively trying to remove fathers from traditional family units? I wouldn't say that. In Western society, I don't see why that should be the case. It shouldn't be the case at all, because you want stability. I can understand maybe in certain cultures, maybe the father's not around. That's worse. That's 10 times worse. Right? And you see there's no stability. So that's 10 times worse. I'm not talking about when, people should stay together, and there's abuse and there's other things. No. Right? I'm talking about when the father disappears. He's not in the picture. He's not in the picture. So would I say that they're removing fathers from traditional family units? No, I would say the fathers in that case are removing themselves. Not that society's trying to do it. Society's doing a whole nother thing. Right? Society has basically destroyed the family unit. Right? Totally demolished it. In fact, again, the system of marriage today is a disaster. It'd be much better if people don't get married. Because if you are going to get married, you have at least a 16% chance, or 50 to 60% chance you will get divorced. So I don't think they're knocking out the father per se. I think they're knocking out the whole institution. And the institution itself is warped. Because anyone can get married. Right? Anyone can get married. A male thinks he's a female can marry. I mean, it's crazy. Someone was telling me this last week. You get someone who changed sexes, right? I don't think they had full operations or whatever. And they married someone of that opposite sex, so they were original. That's insane. So that's not a question of taking the father out. That's a question. The system is messed up. That's what it means, right? Now, someone here says, now just analyze the question. Hebrew community seem to recognize this. Who are you talking about? The Orthodox community recognizes it? We don't recognize it. Why would we recognize taking away the father? If there's abuse and whatever, yeah, then they should get divorced. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if the father's guilty, sure. Right? But who says we agree that you should take the father out of the picture? That's a disaster. Right? If you have to, you have to. Right? If you have to, there's no choice. Right? But you want stability. Stability means there are two parents there, right? Two parents, a male and a female. We'll make this very simple. Right? A male and a female. You need two parents, at least both of them, to have, not saying to have kids, but you want to have successful kids that can navigate the world. If the parents hopefully know what they're doing, which some don't, right? But if they know what they're doing, they can make their kids successful navigating the world, right? Then the kids are a blessing, in that sense, right? But we're all about keeping the unit together, not the other way around, right? Totally not the other way around, right? We're not interested in throwing the father out. We're not interested in breaking up the unit unless you have to, right? And in a case where you have one of the parents isn't there, especially the father's not there, it's very hard. It's very, very hard on the woman, prepare, and providing for the kids. And when the father doesn't provide anything, then it gets a lot more complicated. Okay, that's one thing. The second question is, why do some Hebrew communities or Orthodox communities shield their youth from Western propaganda? You really want me to answer that? Like, you really want an answer? What's the obvious answer? What's the obvious answer? Because the Western media, a bunch of leftists. That's the answer. They're a bunch of stinking leftists, right? Who want to convince a 5-6-year-old that they shouldn't be a boy or a girl. They should go to the opposite of what they are and try and convince them. Yeah, that's insane. That's insane, right? And most anything they're going to read or see, it's either lashon hara, it's immoral, right? It's vulgar, right? I can think of a million different what do you call it? A million different synonyms over here. We use my thesaurus. Right? No one has a thesaurus anymore. Just look it up online, right? But I use my thesaurus for the same thing. It's all garbage. It's all garbage. Someone can say, "Oh, but I can watch the History Channel. I can watch Doctor Who." Ain't nobody watching it anymore. Nobody cares. Very few people care. They don't see people get killed and other things and who knows what, right? So why wouldn't we shield our kids from that if we could? What values? Let me ask like this. What good values come out of anything that the Western media has to say? Good values, according to the Torah. Any? I don't think there's very many values at all. I'm not going to say none, probably some, right? But it's very few. So now I'll be very good at just flipping the scripts, right? So you want to, you want to ask, why would we not want our children to see what's going on in the Western media? Because it's garbage. That's why. Why would I want them to? I'll answer a question with a question. What value is there in Western media? Tell me. Anti-Semitism, vulgarity, immorality, lashon hara. There's only 4 things. Every time a person hears lashon hara, how many transgression programs? How many transgressions? Lots. So tell me what the benefit is. I want to hear what the benefit is. Being well informed, right? I studied history. I'm a student of history. Yeah. Don't people when they give over information, they're not necessarily telling you the whole story. They're not being objective. Right? I'll give one example. What's one of the single biggest lies in the history of man? Top three. That such a thing as the Palestinian people, because the Arabs are the biggest liars in the world. They perpetuated this lie, throughout the millennium. Now everyone sucks it up. Yeah, total lie. And now you got all these college campuses where barring Jews from coming in, they want to annihilate them, destroy them, because we're committing genocide. Really? We're committing genocide? Where's the fact checker? Give me a fact checker, a real fact checker. You kidding me? People don't know their nose from the elbow. Right? I'm being nice over here. They don't know nothing from nothing. They're calling for genocide of all Jews. This is the Western media, by the way. Feeding into this. They're feeding into this. You got so many people coming out and saying, no, they shouldn't be doing this. And this is terrible. Let's get to the bottom of this. If it was almost any other ethnic group, they would have burned these places down to the ground. Down to the ground. Nothing to talk about. So, question is, Jews should shelter from the outside world to a point, right? That is true. This is because Hebrew communities see Satan's work in our world. It's because it's garbage. The Western world we live in is garbage. That's the point. Right? And the more a person delves into the garbage, they're going to be just as big garbage as what's around them. They're not going to be any better. They are not going to be any better. Yeah. So, is it a question of, the evil inclination? Oh, evil inclination is very strong. Evil inclination will say, yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. Even if these sports players are, degenerates, they do other things, whatever it may be. I'm just watching them shoot a ball. It doesn't really matter. It doesn't really have influence. So to speak, we want this garbage out. Because when you have flashy screens, you have all this stuff and it's all exciting and whatever. Even if your team's not doing well, but a person follows. Yeah. Learning Torah is a lot more difficult. Because your brain is stuffed with this garbage. I would tell people, the knowledge I have in sports, and entertainment, if I would have used all that time, all that, or even part of it, if I would have used, part of that time or all that time in a positive way, I would have been a Torah giant years ago. I'm not bragging. I'm not saying this to brag. Yeah. That's wasted knowledge. Wasted knowledge. Yeah. Every once in a while, so I can bring up a parable, use a sports parable or something else. Very good. Yeah. So what? It's wasted knowledge. Right? Bad values. I'll give one example. It was a basketball player years ago. We'll call him up the Raman of rebounds. So they used to call him in, he played for the Sixers. So Charles Barkley, right? He's on, I think, whatever. He does commentary or not commentary, but whatever. He speaks about basketball on, I don't know, one of the stations, whatever it is. This guy, 6'6", right? He played basketball many years ago. Anyone who remembers who he is. And one time he got an altercation with a fan. And of course, what do people do when they're mad at someone? They spit at them. Yeah. So instead of spitting on this fan, he spit on a 4-year-old kid. 4-year-old girl, if I remember correct. Right, that part of my memory is still good. You would emulate this guy? Seriously? You got a daughter, tragically married a Jew, right? So someone showed me an article, he had to get into shape to dance the horror. Okay. So he made it in life. His daughter married a Jew. This is who you want to emulate? You want to emulate people that trash talk. Listen, I grew up with Larry Bird, best trash talker in the world. Work ethic. I wrote an essay in college on his work ethic. You can't take away his work ethic. It's unbelievable. Yeah. Even so, trash talking, you gotta say it's part of the game. Part of the game. Not someone who played, college basketball, semi-pro ball in Europe or whatever. I asked him, I asked him, but people that you hung out with there, it's like, we're not going there. A lot of these people, he said, are scum of the earth. Not everybody. I'm not going to trash everybody. A lot of these people are scum of the earth. You want to emulate them? There's vulgarity. There's immorality. There's lashon. There's all kinds of terrible things. Showmanship, showing up somebody, embarrassing someone. It gives you a right to embarrass someone. Oh, they did this to me. I have a right. I'm not even going to go into all the details. I could be here till tomorrow. Not going to happen. Right? Not going to happen. But let me ask, are there any values worthwhile with these people? Some of them, yeah. Some of them have good values. Okay. Some of them became better from where they came from. Okay. A lot of them are vulgar pigs. Hate to say it, they're vulgar pigs. That's what they are. Listen to how they talk. Listen to how they talk and what they say. How many words come out of their mouths that are sexual innuendos? A lot. Because that's where the mind is. I don't care if they're 30. I don't care if they're 35. I don't care if they're 28. You'll say, it's locker room talk. Yeah. You're not bigger than that? That's the only thing that's on your mind? A lot of people, yeah. It's the only question, how much you get. Kind of disgusting, you think about it. But nobody cares. That's the point. Unless they do something egregious. Nobody cares. Because they want to shoot them, they want to see them shoot a ball. Or hit a ball, or throw a ball. Right? So anyone who comes up with, you want to say work ethic you could learn from? Yeah, maybe. Maybe. But think about it. If you were to put that work ethic and you would apply it to Torah, imagine what you would be. So yeah, you can use it as a good thing. You can use it as a good thing. But I don't know what these people do and who they are. I wouldn't invite them in my house. You know how much money they have? Would not invite them in my house. Because their values are skewed. Totally skewed. So now I'll give you an opportunity. I'm in a generous mood. I'll give you an opportunity. You want to ask the question again? I don't think you want to ask the question again. Right? I'm not here to make fun. I want to make a point. Right? They don't have values. Their values are antithetical to Torah. Anything that's antithetical to Torah, I don't want to bring in my house. I don't want to expose my kids to if possible. They'll get exposed to certain things anyway. Okay? I don't have to show it to them. I don't have to make them aware of it. I grew up with it very good, but the world I grew up with is a very different world. Very, very different world than what it is today. Let me see any follow-ups. Welfare system started by Democrats breaking down family structure. Okay. Yeah, I would agree with that. Someone here mentions Mark Sang was part of that, along with abortion sterilization. I don't know. I saw something recently. I was like, I can't even believe they asked people this question. They believe people should be sterilized. Yeah, maybe you say, well, some people shouldn't have kids. And look who they are, look where they came from. This and that. I can't even believe that's a question. That's abortion. I can hear. Well, abortion's a hard issue. Yeah. Listen, that's what Ted Kennedy did to his daughter, right? It's not, whatever, lobotomy, whatever he did, whatever they did. Yeah. Kennedy's got a soft place in my heart because I grew up in Boston. Messed up family. You want to talk about curses? That total family totally cursed. Right? It could be because his father was a big rabid anti-Semite, Joe Kennedy. So that family had a lot of things happen that's not normal. A lot of kids died, shot, killed, died in different ways. Grandkids, nephews. I mean, crazy. Anyway, no, we're not going to go there. But sterilization. I saw someone post something, about it. I was like, really? Like, it's gotten that far. Abortion, I can hear. Abortion, I can hear. That's already, an age-old issue. A woman can do what she wants with her body. It's not really alive, whatever, okay? Even if you want to say certain cases are permissible, doesn't really matter. It's not the topic. But the idea is that abortion, I can hear. I can hear. Sterilization? You can say, yeah, I don't want this person to be able to ever have kids. Neuter them. And that's what they claim you should do to what do you call it, pedophiles. Because a pedophile, you can put him in jail, whatever, he's not gonna stop being a pedophile. Right? I don't think they have any real way to stop a person. It's in their genes, probably happened to them, most likely. That's what they say. Probably happened to them. So they act on, other people. So okay, you want to stop them, you sterilize them. So, so they don't, they don't have that same desire anymore. That case I've heard of. That's the only way. That's potentially the only way. For these people, therapy doesn't work, other things don't, they're like, that's it. It's probably the only thing that works. Right. But, sterilization in general, for people that, maybe should never have kids or whatever, maybe you say it depends for who and this, but you have a right. Yeah. A person has a right to do that to their body. I know somebody that's got, I don't know, bad divorce, whatever it was, and they got themselves sterilized. Yeah. That's a pretty drastic thing. I mean, it can be fixed. There's no question halacha about it, but first gonna have an 80% chance if they fix it in order to have kids. Okay, right? That's kind of drastic, though. There are ways not to get someone pregnant. There are a lot of ways. That's like, he never wanted to have kids. You want to make sure he never had kids. So the person did something a little bit drastic. I mean, that's pretty drastic. I've heard of such a case, right? But there are like a lot of other ways not to have children. Okay. I'm trying to keep this clean here. Black families rock family units back in the day. Can't say that today. Cannot say that today. Most black families, disaster. Disaster. Yeah, some are. Maybe back in the day, maybe. Maybe they're more of a traditional, more traditional. I don't think so. Today, you can't say that. Today, for sure, you can't say that. Right? It's just a disaster. By some people, maybe. I'm not going to say across the board, but some people, maybe, maybe. Today, it's very hard to say. Very hard to say. Nobody has a family unit today, almost. I mean, people get married, but again, it's a disaster. It's a disaster. So I would say the family unit, yeah. You want to tell me Democrats destroyed it, morality destroyed it. You want to say Democrats destroyed it through morality? Yeah, could be. Yeah, I'm not gonna argue that. Yeah. Why would any family that cares about moral and spiritual future of the children want them to be mainstream God? Why do you think? Why do you think? I don't think there's anything wrong with it. That's why. Make them part of the mainstream media, let them follow things, watch things. I had someone tell me years ago, a number of years ago, the kids were like 9 and 11. And they let them watch whatever they want. I said, how can you do that? It's like, no, I know what they're watching. If you don't filter what they watch all kinds of garbage. Yeah. Why would people do it? They don't want to shelter them. Just the opposite. Just the opposite. They want to be exposed to everything. Have your mind open till your brains fall on the floor. That's what they want to do. So if they go that way, they go that way. Yeah. My wife is, as a friend she grew up with, she has 3 kids, I think 3 or 4 kids. I think 4 kids. I think one of them is straight. One of them is transgender, and I think the other 2 are gay or something. That's it's crazy. 3 out of 4? You're telling me 1 out of 4, okay, I can hear. In the same family? I don't know. I know what, going on in those genes. But you're right. You're right. You're right to a point. Why do people expose them? What's the simple answer? Why are they gonna oppress them? Say, oh, everything age appropriate, let's say. So they see certain things very good. When they can handle it. When they can't handle it, yeah, it's a big problem. But why would they expose it? That's simple. Why wouldn't they expose it? They don't think it's degenerate. They think, okay, person can choose to do whatever they want. Very good. They can choose it. It's their choice. Make it open-minded. Right? Make it totally open-minded. Makes sense. I don't think, if I would have heard that when I was younger, it's going to be age appropriate. Okay. But not to expose them? Why not? What's the problem? You're going to say it's 100% garbage. You're right. It's 100% garbage. Even of the older generation, they wanted their kids to have, go to college, get degrees. Although they want to be exposed. They're not going to, brainwash them, quote unquote. They want to be exposed. They want them to, experience whatever, within reason. They don't want them to get into drugs and other things. Okay. But they want to expose them. Why not? What's the problem? Immorality? I don't think they're worried about immorality. No, they'll say it's healthy for them. Yeah, if you had a daughter, you wouldn't say that. For if you had a son, you say, yeah, it's healthy. Let him look at this, look at that, look at that. What's the big deal? It has ramifications. Sure, it has ramifications. Right? But they'll expose their kids to all kinds of garbage and say, where'd I go wrong? What do you mean, where'd you go wrong? You let all the garbage in. That's where you went wrong. But they don't have values themselves, the parents. Parents gave up on their values. So they want the kids, whatever. Okay, this kid turned out that way, this kid turned out. Did they really educate them? Ask the question, really? Did they really educate them, give them guidance? I don't think so. They just, okay, watch what you want. Maybe they want things to be more age appropriate, this and that, maybe. Okay, maybe they place some limits on it. Today, there's no limits. Some people may have limits. Okay, I'm not going to say everybody, but there's no limits. So they're exposed to all these things when they're very young. It destroys them. Totally destroys them. Right? So when it says, that this culture just totally declined. Declined, yeah. Yeah. I mean, decline's not even the word. This is worse than Sodom. How in the world can you try and convince young kids that they're not of that sect that they should be? Explain that to me. That's not brainwashing. Of course it's not brainwashing. That's giving them the opportunity. Boys born a boy, right? It's got certain genitalia. We'll keep this clean. Yeah? You're going to try and say, how do you know you're a boy? Maybe not so masculine, maybe this. Maybe you'd rather be a woman. It's not a 6-year-old then, 7-year-old then. So it's screw loose. You have a screw loose. That's not keeping your mind open to your brain. That's keeping your mind open to your brain's falling on the floor. That's exposing things they should never be exposed to at that age. Even as teenagers, hormones going crazy. Same thing. Then people say, oh, it's so interesting. Let me experiment. Let me see. And then what happens? Well, it's kind of neat. Let me try it. Is that what a parent wants? I don't think so. I don't think so. Public being sterilized is a good thing. Mercy killing, yeah, it's all the same. It's all the same. The Greeks considered the most civilized people in the world. And the Greeks, what they do when the parents got old, took them up to a mountain, said, Mom, Dad's been around, and left them. Because they, what do you call it? Today's words? What do you call it? The nursing homes, and they end up killing people there and whatever. Okay. Kids can't take care of the parents. They need, a lot of care, blah, blah, blah. I get it. Where's morality today? Morality is out the window. Right? Reality is out the window. The outside influence destroys. That's the point. Totally destroys, and that's why we keep our kids as sheltered as possible, if possible. Today, you really can't do that because everyone's exposed to everything. Right? It's very hard to keep a kid sheltered. Very, very hard. Yeah, I'm going to stop here. But I do this every Tuesday and Thursday. A lot of good questions. I do this every Tuesday and Thursday. Anyone has any questions, find me on Facebook at Michael Chaim Kaufman. Beyond Orthodox Conversion to Judaism, orthodoxconversion.com, or Beyond Orthodox Conversion to Judaism on YouTube. There I get videos on Torah portion of the week, Q&As, I look for our fathers, etc. You want to send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RBBICHAIMCOFFMAN @gmail.com.